Cody Rall, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tyus.
So you have been running a channel for a long time. If I have my notes right, it's somewhere about 10 years.
Right around 10 years, yeah.
Which is super impressive. There's a lot I want to talk to you about it. I think we're going to get interesting when we get into the weeds of the actual tech you do, because it is fascinating and it's cutting edge. But our viewers are creating their own content and want to know about that experience and what you've gone through. And I guess I want to start at the beginning. Like, what got you into being a content creator?
Yeah, I started posting YouTube videos when I was in medical school, but even earlier than that, I used to make Lego videos and play around with cameras when I was a kid. And then when I decided to go to medical school and started studying all the time, I felt like I was missing this creative aspect to my day-to-day life. So I had this crazy idea, maybe someday I would be a YouTuber, because it was around the time that YouTube was coming to prominence. And my experience, I think, is a little unique because I actually was forced to keep it as a side gig for many years because I was an active duty doctor in the Navy. I had my day job seeing patients in the clinic, and it wasn't until 21 when I got out. It wasn't until 21 when I got out of the Navy that I was able to transition into doing it full time.
Wow. So that was like the full-time job plus the side hustle. You still have job and side hustle. How much time are you devoting toward the media content stuff versus the doctor stuff?
At this point, it's flipped. I spend at least 40 hours a week on the content side of things. I'm doing about 6 hours of clinical care per week.
Oh, wow.
It's been nice within the last year or so. Affiliate sales have taken off, so that's really covered all the household costs and allowed me to do it full time, basically.
Now, I want to get into the monetization because everybody wants to get into the monetization. But before we do, there's a lot of things that you've done strategically that I think are really fascinating. One of those things has been you're a very niche channel. You're very focused on what you do. And there's a lot of people that start off, I see it especially with new shows, where they're going to be like, I want to be Joe Rogan and talk to anybody about anything. I personally think that's a mistake starting off. I think that's maybe an earned position over a long duration of time. But I'm curious why you ended up with the niche you had. I've gone back into your channel. It wasn't always this. So I'm curious why you chose the niche you had and how you kind of narrowed that down. Was it intentional or was it just the result of what worked?
Yeah, at the beginning, it was definitely more trial and error, talking about science and technology concepts that I thought were interesting at the time. Maybe even things like sleep medications in the very early days, or findings that people were finding with different mental health disorders related to brain scans. But within the first year or two, I noticed that if I talked about certain consumer level devices, that people were able to engage with that a lot easier on YouTube. I think that when people see you talking about a device that they can purchase and then use at home, they can actually become involved with the technology. So over time, within the first 4 or 5 years, I transitioned into talking primarily about brain wearables that you can use at home. So it was more of a back and forth exchange of, you can actually purchase these devices and use them at home. Here's the data that comes off of them. Here's some product reviews and tutorials about how to use them. And it just created this whole ecosystem from there.
A lot of people find success when a new feature comes out on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. And the people that act upon that first often win the game because those networks are trying to promote the new technologies. And so they'll highlight that, they'll give an algorithmic boost. But also you're utilizing that within the content you're creating. You're literally at the forefront of these wearable brain technologies that I've got to assume you've watched them go from like, this is a ridiculous gimmick of nothingness to like, there's something here. This is probably amazing. And so it's interesting to watch both of those dynamics play at the same time, where one is you're on the forefront of the media, but then the thing that you're bringing to the media is the forefront of scientific tech. So can you right in front of me is a really beautiful set of headphones that I was told that you're going to give to me after the show. So what are these?
So these are the Neurable MW75s. They just came out this year. Just started shipping within the last month. And I had a pair at the end of the summer that they sent to me to sort of beta test and make really the first YouTube videos that are ever available on these devices online. and then I had to send them back because they had to do a firmware update, and I just literally got them back today.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
I was really excited that I had gotten them back so I could bring them on the podcast. But what's really exciting about these headphones is that up until now, a lot of the neurotechnology devices you've have to wear around your head, sort of like as a headband type. This would be an example. Like the Muse headband is one that I'm pretty well known for, and you wear it around your head like this. It looks kind of silly, but if you're at home meditating and doing neurofeedback, who cares?
Now this is the king of the hill right now, as far as I understand,
It really is one of the more prominent neurotechnology devices out there.
and still not
Um,
cheap. And I think, is it a subscription
yeah,
on top of the
subscription based.
hardware?
A lot of them are transitioning to subscription based because it's reoccurring revenue, and it's
Yeah.
hard to uh, you know, make your margins work with hardware. So I really love the Muse headband, but what I like about what Neurable has done is they've created a form factor that you can feel comfortable using in a coffee shop or out in public, which I think is really a very important part to making neurotechnology go mainstream. Because if you look odd wearing the technology, it's only going to be limited to a small group of people that are comfortable doing that. But if it becomes seamlessly integrated into things like headphones or virtual reality headsets and start collecting biomarkers that you can use to either increase your productivity or track your sleep or improve your mental health overall, I think that's where things really take off.
There's two things that caught me immediately when you handed me those headphones. One was the build quality is crazy good, and I'm saying that not for the random tech that's added onto it. Like if you just handed me those headphones against pretty much almost anything, those feel great. Like that metal design and like it's Bowers and Wilkins level, like solid hardware design.
Yeah, they worked with a company called Master and Dynamic out of New York, who's a boutique headphones designer, and they have a line of headphones already. But Neurable is a company in Boston that's developed this focus tracking brainwave technology that they embedded into the form factor that was already available. And if you look here, these are the brainwave sensors. These striped patterns are actually brainwave sensors that go around your ear and are able to pick up the brainwave signals from there.
Does the location of the sensor matter? I mean, they've got it around the ear, but they could have also put it in the band at the top. I'm curious, are you getting different pieces of information based off of where the sensor is located?
You would, but if you train the machine learning algorithms to look for specific uh, shapes of the signal, you can get the same information
Got it.
theoretically.
So
But
like maybe next gen they'll put in additional pieces up top because you could wear this out and nobody would look at you like a freak.
right. I mean, there are other companies that have the sensors on top of your head, and that can be more important for certain neurofeedback protocols. And for those of your listeners that are not familiar with neurofeedback, it's a practice of getting audio or visual feedback to train your brain to fall into different brainwave frequencies. There's a really popular one called Alpha that's relaxed attention, that's good for flow state training, that type of thing. But Neurable really went with the easiest form factor, which is just the sensors around your ears, because once you start putting sensors on top of your head, it has to get through your hair. Uh,
Not my hair.
Gentlemen such as yourself might not have as much difficulty with that, but the general consumer is going to have more trouble parting their hair and getting the sensors actually on the scalp where it gets a good signal.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah, but the beauty of these is that, I mean, when you throw them on, they get the connectivity right away. It's just really great to see, especially for a person like myself that's been working with these for the past 10 years, and getting a good connection between the sensors in your scalp can be a pain sometimes to get the right signal. So it's really reducing the barrier to entry of using the neurotechnology in your everyday life. You just throw the headphones on, start working, and then at the end of the session, you have a whole graph showing where you lost your attention, how in flow state you were, and it's really a Fitbit for your brain.
Okay, speaking of getting a good connection and me making a good transition, how do you connect with these people that are willing to send you their product and be like, check this out? Because a lot of creators would love that. That there's like, I don't know how to do that. How would I generate that?
Yeah, it's about 50-50 for me right now. Either I'll see people posting on LinkedIn and realize this is a good company that's coming to market within the next 6 to 12 months. And then I'll reach out, and it's really to the level where I have a very niche channel. They can see that immediately with 40,000 subscribers. And they say, hey, if this guy actually makes content with us, that's actually going to have an impact. That's actually probably going to turn into conversions and awareness of the product. So people and companies have been really receptive to me if they're in the neurotech community, asking to make videos for them. But also the other 50% is because I've been around for almost 10 years, they're actually aware of me. It's kind of funny that tell me they've been watching my videos for years. They have their product coming to market in the next couple of months. They'd like to talk further about an affiliate deal agreement and then plans for coming out with a couple of videos to announce the launch of the product and going from there.
A lot of people feel like they need to have like 2 to 5 million subscribers. And oftentimes they don't realize that if you're a giant show, if you're 10, 20 million subs, you can actually get paid less because a lot of people are looking for a niche targeted market. And so the nano and the micro influencers actually can produce, well, they can actually charge more because their audience is so targeted, like so perfectly targeted. And you've got such a great niche. So you fell into the niche based off of the fact that like this is what you were passionate about, crossing technology and medicine, specifically with the brain. Let's go farther down with what this tech does exactly. When you say like neurofeedback, am I walking around like looking at my phone and it's telling me like how good I'm feeling? What is it doing?
Well, the Muse headband, for example, is primarily designed for meditation. So you would be sitting down in the morning, your morning routine, throwing the headband on, and then meditating with the device. And not only is it guiding you into what research shows are the best brainwaves for a good meditation session, but it's also giving you feedback at the end of the session. It's also gamified a bit, so you get points throughout the week as you're using it to help establish the habit of meditating regularly. One of the things I'm really proud of Muse for doing here within the last 6 months is it's really becoming a brain diagnostic device, which is super exciting. So a year ago, they introduced sleep tracking, and I tested against Aura and Whoop, and it was by far more accurate for sleep tracking than those other products.
Does it have an accelerometer in there and
It has an
gyroscope?
accelerometer, but when you think of the most accurate tracking for sleep is actually the brain waves because they're actually firsthand monitoring what the brain is doing. And it's very obvious when the brain slips from the higher frequency brain waves of beta and alpha down into delta and theta, which represent sleep quality. And you can take a look at different things like sleep spindles are an indication of sleep quality. But the new metric that they just came out with in the last month or two is called peak alpha. Now, within the alpha band of brainwave frequencies, there's actually a peak of amplitude within that frequency band. It might be a little complicated, but basically what it is signifying is the health of your brain. It's been correlated to cognitive performance, mental fatigue, age.
What's battery life on something like this?
The battery life on that one, I can get probably about 10 different meditation sessions out of it. So I don't have to charge it that often.
And it looks like it's got a heart rate monitor on the
It does.
on the
It does
inside
have
of that.
it's got a
Galvanic response or
pulse ox.
pulse ox. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Very
Tracks
cool.
your temporal artery. And so they've got HRV measurements there as well. And you can use that as neurofeedback. You can use that as biofeedback to train your meditation.
Accurate
as well.
HRV. Like
Mhm.
that's impressive. That's one of those things that as I try and train it, I get super frustrated with my life. It's also wildly soft, given that the technology and wires going through that.
Yeah, the previous form factors were a hard band that went around your head, but they came out with this one a couple of years ago to make it more comfortable, especially for sleep.
I've done sleep studies, and they'll wire you up with all this stuff, which is really hard to sleep with a lot of stuff on you.
You're
But
looking at the exact replacement of sleep studies. That's going to be a total thing of the past. There's a couple of other companies working on it in the neurotech field, and I've been consulted by some pretty major tech companies, and that's one of the first things I'll say is if you want a direct entry route into efficacy of improving what's done in medicine right now and want to bring wearables into the fold, sleep studies is one of the main things I think is going to come to fruition within the next year or two. It's already happening.
yeah, the new Apple Watch update will tell you if you have sleep apnea or not. Which I'm assuming it's probably just listening to the audio if you're snoring or not, and then seeing if you're moving or so. I have no idea how it works. But something like this is really fascinating for that, and you could add a couple extra sensors on that, or even use your phone as the microphone next door to it, and then you're getting the audio feedback on there.
I will say it's not the most comfortable thing to wear
Okay.
to sleep. It took me a couple of nights to get used to it when I was using it. So for everyday use, probably an Aura Ring's easier to wear to bed or a wrist wearable like the Apple Watch. But you know, there's pros and cons to these wearables and the form factors and the information that they can get from your body.
Do you ever wear these while you're recording content and then see if you're like your brain's firing off on all cylinders, or if you're like increased stress or whatever while the camera's rolling?
Well, one of the issues is that muscle contractions actually cause a lot of electrical signals that will overpower the brain signals that the device is trying to get. The brain signals are actually a lot smaller in amplitude. So ideally, you're sitting there not contracting your face muscles. And the issue with talking is that there's a lot of contractions of your face muscles. So you have to really use them when you're not talking or even grimacing or smiling.
Could you use muscle contractions as an indicator of what the brain's doing? So could you put a band on your wrist and it say, oh, hey, he's moving his wrist or his fingers or whatever, and use that as an indication of, well, the brain's probably firing something off?
Yeah. Did you see Mark Zuckerberg with Meta come out with that Orion wristband?
Yeah, the crazy one that's controlling the way overpriced glasses that nobody can get.
Yeah. I'm working with another company that was founded. So Meta acquired Control Labs. Control Labs was the original designer of that wristband technology that actually tracks the not only muscle contractions, but the nerve firings that are happening in your arm when you move your fingers. Another company called Mudra was started at the very same time, but they've stayed independent. They're out of Israel, and I'm working with them right now. So it's like basically the same technology, but not rolled up into Meta's bundle package with the VR headset.
And they avoid the patent issues and stuff somehow?
I think they have their own patents.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's go ahead, sorry.
Well, long story short is that you can use it for manual control. So I've done a lot of that already. I should have brought it to the studio here, but so you can control cursors on the screen and click through icons by pinching your fingers, that type of thing. I actually have a call with them tomorrow with some developers because they're developing gameplay. You'd be able to sit there playing a game without even moving your fingers because your nerves actually fire just with the intention of thought without moving your fingers itself. So you can play games.
Where's the reader?
The reader is on your wrist.
Wow.
Yeah. And then taking it a step further is that you can get information about the balance of your nervous system, whether you're in fight or flight or rest or relaxation, from how those peripheral nerves are firing off.
Sympathetic, parasympathetic, that one?
Yeah. That would be the next level. So obviously putting them into a form factor like headphones makes them a lot more neurotechnology, a lot more accessible to the general public. But imagine if you can get very similar information from the wrist based on how relaxed you are, if you're focusing, but then also active control of gameplay as well.
So what is it telling you? So if I throw on those headphones, and now I know, hey, don't move your jaw because apparently that's going to mess things up. What is that going to tell me?
So it'll give you a graph at the end of a 15 to 20 minute session about where and when you lost focus, but it'll actually notify you. They have an AI powered focus coach within the app that notifies you if you've lost focus. It also will tell you when to take a break based on neuroscience research about how long you should work and when to take breaks based on the actual measurement of your brain waves.
I love the idea of it saying take a break. The idea of it saying, hey, you've gotten distracted, I would find so distracting that it's like an endless loop of like, well, of course I'm distracted. You just pinged me and told me I'm not focused.
It doesn't keep pinging you. Basically what it will do is, if it notices that you've lost focus for a minute or two, it'll say, hey, you're losing focus. Perhaps it's time to take a break. And then you take them off, take your break, and then get back to work.
So, by the way, if you were to recommend one of these things, what would it be?
Well, I love the Neurable.
Yeah?
Well, it depends on what
Over
you want to
this?
do. If you want to track focus and productivity, I would go with the Neurable. If you want to train with meditation and you're interested in meditation just as a practice, I would go with the Muse.
So does the Neurable?
Mm-hmm.
Hard names, guys. Yeah. Does the Neurable do meditation tracking?
It can. And I've tracked meditation sessions with it, and there are very obvious spikes in the graph with meditation. They just haven't designed the app around it. So I'm making my own inferences based on what I see with the data and my experience over the years of using these devices. One of the things about the Neurable headphones is they don't actually show the raw brain waves, which I could get information from. It's more these bars that indicate their proprietary algorithm that reflects focus. And that's one of the things that you find between these devices. Some share the raw brainwave data, some just share the proprietary information. To the general user, the proprietary information is going to be enough to make inferences about how your brain is working. But it has been made a case by some people in the industry that it's actually good to show the raw brainwaves because very few people have been exposed to this technology yet. It's still totally woo woo for a lot of people. And actually seeing that cold hard data, I think it instills confidence that the device is actually getting real information from your brain and it's not just, just not snake oil, basically.
This is the Apple versus PC argument,
Yeah.
where it's just like, should they control the environment so that it's easy and simple for the user, or should they give you access to everything, but that might create product confusion? So you've got these great relationships with these companies. One thing that I might find interesting, if true, is they're probably coming to you for feedback.
Hmm.
So your audience, in a sense, like you become a funnel point where your audience kind of gives you information, and that information can actually go to change the entire industry that you're a part of. That's fascinating.
It's an incredible position. I feel really lucky to have this viewpoint of the whole industry and be able to, provide feedback. And I think that a really basic example of that would be YouTube does really great breakdowns of age and gender of people that are watching certain videos. So I can zoom in on all my Muse videos and say, hey, this is actually an older audience than we originally thought. They're actually trending more towards boomers that want to use this technology to track meditation, whereas a different device like Neurable trends younger into the millennial generation that wants to use it for focus and productivity. So I can give that type of information back to the companies about like what target audience they should be going after for their marketing.
Do you find, or do you prefer creating evergreen content, stuff that works forever, where you're explaining maybe here's the mechanism of how these things work, but it's not like this product just came out, which would be something that would be a trending item? Do you have I focus on evergreen or I focus on trending? Because trending dies away very quickly. How do you navigate that?
In the beginning, it was primarily evergreen because I was making product reviews that would last over years. I mean, I have videos from 6, 7, 8 years ago that are still getting a good amount of views and turning out sales. But as the niche has progressed, there's been more opportunities for trending topics because there's been more news stories on the industry. Colorado passed a law. It was their neuro rights initiative. So they're bringing in legislation under the umbrella of what was done for genetic information to protect consumers' data. Basically, if you collect a person's brainwaves, you have biological data from that person. We want to protect that data, meaning that these companies really shouldn't be selling that information to third parties or using it for nefarious means. They should make it available for the person to get their own data if they want it. And because of these news stories on major news outlets, I've been able to do more reaction videos, which do much better as far as trending videos because the algorithm sees that a lot of people are watching these news reports. People want to learn more about the technology from a third party that's been involved with them over the years, and I serve that purpose. And I'm able to ride the algorithm wave a lot better now than I used to. So now it's becoming more of a mix of evergreen and trending topics, and I'm still trying to figure out the balance.
So you look for a trending video, and then you'll do commentary on that video to essentially hit the first one works already, right? The first video that you're going to be commenting on already is effective.
Yeah, and it depends also where that trending video is coming from. Sometimes it's news outlets, sometimes it's other podcasts, and sometimes the take on this technology can be quite negative from other podcasts. They go down the conspiracy route, which, I totally sympathize with. These are things that we need to be talking about because once you start collecting brainwave information, you can do things like identification, futurist.
Is that really?
Yeah, we have
It's that precise.
We have very unique brain signatures, and it's very possible, especially with the higher end technologies like functional MRI or full cap EEG, that it's like a fingerprint, basically. The other more controversial topics, we're not quite there yet, but there are certain signatures for lie detection that might come into play in the future.
I'm very skeptical about lie detection.
Yeah. Well,
because traditional polygraph is junk.
Largely debunked because you can be trained to get around.
It's more of a stress it's a stress measurement than it is a lie detection measurement type device.
But there are certain signals within the brain. For example, if you show someone a series of pictures, let's say it's from a crime scene, and they recognize the pictures, theoretically there's going to be And not even so much theoretically, there's been published research on this. There's going to be certain brain spikes that go off if you recognize the picture or not. So that could be used as a form of interrogation, showing people pictures from crime scenes, for example.
You know that study about where they would flash faces in front of a person and then they would occasionally like put in a different face and they basically could prove people were racist.
I didn't see that
you
one,
haven't
but
seen it?
I imagine those are ERPs as well, which I'm going to be diving into on the channel pretty soon. ERPs are evoked related potentials, and those are those spikes in brainwave signatures. But getting back to the original point, it can become conspiratorial in nature. And unfortunately or fortunately, those videos do very well on YouTube because YouTube, I think the algorithm and just the viewing nature of people in general want to be skeptical or fearful. It's kind of like fear porn will take off. So, I'm kind of balancing. I'm trying to find the balance of that right now because I want to be positive and optimistic about the technology because of the huge benefit to mankind that I think that it can have, especially coming from the mental health treatment field where we just don't have any data on the brain. And it's really muddied up our ability to diagnose and treat and actually even conduct studies on medicines or treatments that can be beneficial to people with mental health disorders. So I think this is going to completely revolutionize the field in my lifetime, my professional lifetime. But there's a lot of questions about what it can be used for in terms of nefarious purposes as well. So it's total balance.
I'm definitely of two worlds there. Like I really value my privacy. However, if you have 23andMe or Ancestry.com that have like everybody's DNA, right? And they're keeping it private, or supposedly, allegedly, they're keeping it private. However, we've got AI that is incredible at doing pattern recognition, and I feel like it's such a disservice to the fact that we're not running all of this stuff. Even if we could randomize it in some capacity, so we didn't know the original users, like it'd be amazing to be able to run your DNA and say, well, based off of nature and nurture, here's the likelihood of this happening, or these technologies. Like if this could tell me, hey, if you don't change your ways, you're on your way toward mental illness, right? Like we've seen this pattern, we know it leads to depression or Alzheimer's or something, right? Like that's such an incredible service to provide, and by handcuffing organizations from being able to gather all that information and use it for those capabilities, I feel like in a way we might be slowing down our progress in
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. AI has totally supercharged these devices. That's a big part of the story within the last 2 to 3 years because the brainwave signals and the information is so complex that our own human brains can't make sense of the patterns. But if you train the machine learning algorithms to look for certain patterns, they're really parsing out different brainwave states, able to diagnose diseases more and more to a certain degree. And then also the interventions are getting really exciting. Ultrasound, post ultrasound, actually using ultrasound to activate different areas of the brain to induce euphoria or treat depression.
Really?
That's coming along very quickly, even in a wearable format, as well as some other technologies that have been around for a decade or two.
How would that work in a wearable format? What are you doing? You shocking the brain? You throwing a magnet on it? What are you doing to change somebody's brain chemistry?
So, ultrasound, backing up a little bit, over the last 2 decades, we're understanding the brain to be a series of circuits. That's become more and more prominent as our understanding of what the brain does and how it strikes balance from day to day activities. So, if you target different circuits with different stimulation, you can actually get those circuits to turn on and off. A good example is the default mode network. So, there's a circuitry in the brain called the default mode network that turns on when we have self referential thought. So, when we're thinking of me, my problems, this happened to me, this is my life story. As you can imagine, people with depression fall into that mode more often than the general population. If you're sitting there worrying about your life situation or just overthinking things, you're stuck in the default mode network. So the way that it would work with a wearable, ultrasound in particular, is that you can actually put ultrasound technology into what they call a puck. So it's about that big, and you could just put it on a strap around your head, and you could target the ultrasound to the default mode network and turn it on and off with the ultrasound stimulation.
They know where the default mode network is in the brain, so they could target it that way. Is that what you mean?
Right. So that's the other caveat. And I actually did this. My friend's lab in Santa Monica is doing this on a regular basis. So I went there last summer. They did MRI of my brain, And then using the MRI of the brain, then they can triangulate where your specific default mode network is and stimulate that with the ultrasound.
That it does seem to be like one of the big catches is that there's, neuroplasticity, your brain everybody's a little different, right? And so anyways, you have to know what fires what off. I just saw these glasses that have a teleprompter built into them, among other features that I think are really, really interesting. But the teleprompter scrolls as it hears you talk. So it's using AI to make sure it knows where you're at within the script. And I think about like, you start adding more and more sensor. I mean, a microphone plugged into a computer is no big deal as far as sensory capabilities are concerned. But if you were to add on to that, the ability of being like, wake up, this is an important part to pay attention to, or like you're lingering too much or whatever. Like there's so much potential here. And I feel like it's fairly untapped because right now they're going for these broad topics of, are you focused? Like, but you could get really niche with these.
Yeah, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole of what's possible because some with the higher end technologies, Neuralink has demonstrated this, but then also some other companies that are using just over the head wearables, really high end over the head wearables that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that being said, getting better and better of actually decoding thoughts. So speaking sentences in your head, having those signals taken, analyzed by the AI, and transformed into text.
Oh my God!
I was just in.
Are they there? Can I think and it know what I'm thinking?
So with the brainwave technology that's in these, they're at about 60% accuracy at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have you played with 11 Labs? Are you familiar with them? They do text to speech, but it's crazy good.
Okay.
And so Lex Friedman just had Javier Milei, who the president of Argentina. And he doesn't speak English. He speaks Spanish, and Lex Friedman speaks English. And they had a conversation. But it wasn't just that the computer was translating, it was mimicking their voice. I just finished writing 3 books, and I was like, am I going to record all these? But I can simulate my voice with 30 minutes of training and have a robot that you can't tell it's not me.
Yeah.
Like I can play it for my dad, and my dad will be like, "That you definitely recorded all of these." And so the idea of you could think your thought, and this thing, and then you run it through a system like that, and like now you've just cured people that are deaf. You know, like these are wild technologies.
There's a lot of artistic possibilities as well. I was just in Paris in October. There's a trio art group there that's working with the University of Paris that have been projecting their mental imagery into artwork. They had an art show. It was really neat.
When they see the mental imagery that comes out, are they going, that is accurate to what I was thinking?
So, and this is in YouTube videos on my channel, but like, for example, they trained the AI to, they looked at a series of pictures of a mushroom, trained it to recognize if they're looking at a mushroom or not, and then just used their imagination to imagine the mushroom, and then it redrew the mushroom from their mental imagery alone. In sort of like an artistic, like the stock was on top of the gills and it was turned around in odd colors, but it got the general gist that they were trying to imagine a mushroom and threw it up into artwork.
Let me repeat that back to make sure I got a general understanding. So you're putting in kind of a feedback of, hey, this is what a mushroom looks like. Then the person's focusing on the mushroom and it's seeing what fires off in the brain to give it that general representation?
Yes. Yeah. And they did that for a lot of other things, even differentiating between happy and sad faces, different landscapes, the ocean, clouds, that type of thing.
Wow. Okay. So there's some rabbit holes I want to go down. But before I do, I need to keep in mind that my audience is very curious, probably from the onset of this, about monetization on a podcast. And that's kind of the promise that I wanted to deliver. So I want to do that. I'm going to ask you after this about free will and the nature of the mind. So we're going to a weird place very soon. But before we do, you're dealing almost exclusively in affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
Tell me how that works.
That has evolved over a couple of years. I did neurofeedback coaching for a while. I was making revenue from that. I had a coaching program. But within recent years, because I've been so blue ocean, and you're familiar with the concept of blue ocean.
Explain it, though, just because everybody
Yeah,
isn't.
so just because of my interests of being a mental health provider and being interested in brain technologies and sort of being on the forefront of what's happening with this industry right now, there's really no one else on YouTube that's doing what I'm doing. And what happens in that situation is that anytime someone sees an advertisement for either Neurable or Muse on Instagram, the companies are running their ads on Instagram, it might come up on Facebook. They'll go to Google and search for, what is this thing? And my videos will come right at the top of the search results. So they say, oh, this guy, he's talking about the devices. Let me see what's going on. Watch the video. And then, within the video, towards the end, I'll have my call to action. Hey, if you really want to get one of these devices, I've been working with this company. They've given my audience a great discount. Uh, it really helps support the channel if you go through the link below, and that'll give you a discount. So they click the link, and basically it tracks the traffic going from YouTube to the site. And if they purchase a device within 30 days, I'll get a 10 to 20% kickback of the purchase of that device. And now that I'm working with 12 different companies in different capacities, it really adds up.
And that was all about building those relationships. And then did you pitch them? Did they pitch you? Who said, hey, maybe we should do an affiliate deal together?
Well, Muse had an affiliate program from the early days, and they were, pretty well at recognizing that the micro influencer niche was good at, talking about devices, doing deep dives, making really good videos, and then having good conversions to sell products. So I think I got set up with them early on, and there was a couple of other early ones. And it's progressed to the point where like Neurable doesn't even have an affiliate program, but they know who I am over the years. And since they've come to market and we've been talking over the years, we've kind of just negotiated a deal on the back end. They've given me my own link, which I don't think anybody else has affiliate links for Neurable at this point that I'm aware of. So it's all varying degrees. There might be companies with big affiliate programs. There might be others that don't have any affiliate programs, but just want to work with me because of who I am in the industry.
So like the most common affiliate programs out there is going to be probably like the Amazon program that almost everybody utilizes, where if they click the link, it's loading a cookie onto their web browser. They go to Amazon. When they buy something, it's giving them a little taste of it. Amazon's margins are wildly low, so they can't kick back a lot. But that might be like probably the lowest barrier of entry on an affiliate program. But in your situation, if you're listening to this and paying attention, the rules of the game right now are niche down until you are in a special market, right? Because if you're too broad, then there's nobody who you specialize with. So you're going to have a harder time attracting a big audience, or not. It's not even a big audience; it's a dedicated audience, right? Mm-hmm. And then create those relationships with the big players in that industry. And this is a great example. This is a very niche industry. It's like you've got a niche audience on a niche industry, but because of it, you've created a lifestyle for yourself that's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been totally surprised. I thought I was going to have to sell big coaching programs to reach. I mean, like we just did 19K for Black Friday this last month, so it covers all my living expenses and then some. And so I'm really at the position now where I'm like, do I just do affiliate sales for the rest of my life, basically, to fund the channel, which there's pros and cons to it, right? Because it goes up and down. I'm averaging about 15K a month over the last year. So I do want to supplement with other, I'm starting to think about doing meditation related products that I could put the Tech for Psych brand on and have something of my own to sell, so I have more control over certain things. Because right now I'm dealing with probably 6 different affiliate marketing platforms, and each one has their nuances and hiccups, and you just see sales get lost here and there, or like a link goes down. So it almost turns into a full-time job, just managing all the links and making sure that everything's working properly. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying the pros and cons of running this business model. I think it's been a great run over the last 2 years. I would like to diversify, but yeah, I've been really surprised how it can add up.
When you said you're going through these different places to handle affiliate marketing, are those agencies that are handling this, or are you talking about just the company directly?
So the companies will sell up with the affiliate marketing programs. So I suppose you would call them agencies. There's like AWIN, ShareASale, Impact, Conscious Partners. Some of them have even specialized in like meditation or biohacking type devices. So there's a lot of different affiliate marketing programs there where you as the affiliate marketer can log in, see how many clicks you've gotten, how many conversions, how well you're doing over the course of the month. And so I have a lot to say about that at this point, since I've been working with 6 or 7 different ones. I'm even telling the neurotech companies to go towards certain ones that I like as opposed to other ones that I've found very glitchy and have poor customer service, that type of thing.
So the people might think about that and go, "Oh, this sucks that there's this other organization that's taking a percentage off the top." But on the flip side, you're not having to create trackable links and deal with creating software, and nor is the company that you're working with, right? Like it creates that technology for both sides.
Yeah, it's actually really valuable. And I've talked about this before where a lot of these companies, especially the startups, have not had any experience with affiliate marketing. So for those of your audience that are interested in getting into this, don't assume that the companies that you want to work with are actually experts in affiliate marketing. You're going to have to actually teach them along the way and figure it out together as you move forward, especially as you get more leverage with your channel or your podcast and, get more attention for doing this type of thing. But yeah, it's a learning process.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're in a situation like one of the downsides being you don't have necessarily full control over your income, right? And that goes not only with the fact that you didn't make these products, right? So
Right.
they could pull from that direction, but also you primarily focus on YouTube. Um, we push podcasting because that's my world is podcasting. And one of the things I like about podcasting is you really own it. You own the RSS feed. It's yours, right? If one platform takes you out, too bad. You can just go anywhere you want. Have you? Do you have to be careful within like YouTube's infrastructure, within the client's infrastructure? Like you have to watch your P's and Q's.
Well, luckily I'm in a topic that I don't think is too controversial, so I don't feel like I'm gonna piss YouTube off anytime soon or say something that would, get my account revoked or something like that. There's the copyright issues here and there that are a little scary, but I haven't really had to deal with any of that. And other than that, I think that one thing I'll say is that I'm still doing telemedicine, so I can. It's really helpful to have, I guess it's become my side gig, some kind of contractor job that you can rev up and down as you go along with the bumps has been helpful.
It's like a shock absorber.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I didn't do very well over the last quarter. Maybe I should increase my hours on this a little bit more, which hasn't been really the case for me. It's all been upside for the last 2 years, but it's nice to know that, you know, competition's coming in. I've noticed more and more people making videos about these devices, and I don't know what's going to happen if they beat me on Google search results. Is that going to completely kill off all my affiliate sales because I'm not ranking high on Google, I think it's very possible. As well as how are the companies doing? Are they going to go under if there's a recession? Their profit margins are not huge as of yet. I think the only wearable company that's actually made any gains over the last year has been Aura, and so those are some things to think about. It's like having a plan B for me has helped with my psychology, which I think is like a huge part of the game because I come from the doctor world where you are employed by a hospital, or for my case with the U.S. Navy, and had a steady paycheck every month. And seeing these numbers sort of ride the wave month to month is a little unsettling.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. Uh, yeah, I want to take as much risk as possible because I know the more time I put into the channel, the more that I ride the affiliate sales and free up all my time, the faster things grow. But it's a long grind. So there's a lot of different factors, as I'm sure you're aware, running a podcast studio and dealing with these types of income streams.
Yeah, there's something to be said about like patchwork economics where rather than having one thing that's all you do, and there's an advantage to that too. Like if you're a specialist, that's great. But a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to quit my job and go all into this. And it's like, are you sure you want to work without a net? Because
Right.
you can do it, but boy, you better be focused.
And you got to be psychologically resilient too. I think that's a huge part, at least from what I've noticed in the last 3.5 years of being out of the Navy, not having that steady paycheck. It's been a total growth process of just like stomaching that risk. Even though I don't think I am taking as much risk as I potentially could, or a lot of other people that have to completely leave their jobs. I'm actually in a very fortunate position, I think, but it still sort of messes with your head.
You mentioned Google ad buys. There's a lot of ways to market content out there. What are you doing to get in front of people's eyes, both on the free version of it, and are you doing anything on the paid side of that?
So the companies that I've been working with have been putting more ad spend behind things like Instagram ads and Facebook ads. So,
What your affiliate companies are doing it?
so like Neurable, for example, the neurotechnology companies are doing more ad spend. I don't actually do any ad spend myself. It's all organic on my side. Just figuring out the YouTube algorithm, and I think that in
You're
some
just
cases is
optimizing.
just as powerful as paid ads. But it depends on the company. But both Muse and Neurable have run ads taking my content and repurposing it for Instagram. And I've been very I want them to do that. I want them to share my content as far as wide as possible. And they've even asked me, you know, can we pay you for the rights of this video content to put it out on Instagram? And I said, and I don't even know if this is the right move, but this is my thinking, is that I'm not going to charge you to use that content. I want you to push as much ad spend behind it and spread it far and wide, expose my brand as far and wide as possible. All I ask is that within the ad, you say, if you want to learn more, check out Dr. Cody's YouTube channel and go there. There's some nuances there about whether they'll actually include the affiliate link in the Instagram marketing, which obviously is good for me because it drives more people through my cookie tracking link. But a lot of times they can't do that because not only are they spending money on the ad, they have to, take my cut out of it. And at the end of the day, they're not making any profit. So
Yeah, but they
more
are promoting your face and your brand,
right.
and you're essentially getting free paid marketing by partnering with the companies. Now, does this change what you're allowed to say? Because now can you be critical of the companies that you're partnered with?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I'm grappling with that, more and more. How do I be critical? So I try to strike a good balance between not being too overly optimistic and pointing out things that I don't like about the tech. Um, One thing that I would point out is I've had a lot of devices sent to me that I just don't make videos about because I just think that they're not there yet. And I think that helps when I talk about it on the channel to gain trust with the audience. That the neurotech field, I love it. It's coming along. I think there's so much potential, but there's a lot of people trying to get into the space that aren't doing it right. And but the last thing that I want to do is talk badly about a company that's really trying to
Do good things.
progress and do good things in neurotechnology. So I have that ethical question of like, let's say there's another pair of headphones. I won't call them out here, but they also have focus tracking technology, not nearly as good as Neurable. They sent me their product. Basically, I said, I don't like these at all. I could make a video just totally shutting down your company, saying that these are terrible, but I don't want to be negative. So I'm not going to make a video about it. Um, I might mention it here and there when I'm making videos for Neurable, for example, and say I've compared these to other headphones that track your focus that are out there on the market, and these are by far the best. So that's been my strategy. Maybe it'll change in the future.
Do you give those companies feedback on like, hey, if you were to improve some elements here, we could change this whole game, but you're
Yeah.
just not there yet?
Yeah, huge feedback. That company, for example, I typed up a couple of pages of just like what needs to be improved.
Do the sensors have to be that big, or like could earbuds have this stuff working in them?
Yeah, theoretically, and Apple just filed a patent last year for brainwave tracking in their earbuds. We haven't seen an actual product yet, but there actually are a couple other companies that have designed sensors. I originally thought, how the heck are you going to get brainwave signals from the ear canal? But apparently, the ear canal actually works as a funneling system that's pretty good that actually concentrates brainwaves into the ear canal that can be picked up by sensors. So very soon, we're going to start seeing earbuds from various companies that are tracking brainwave signals as well.
Glasses seem like an obvious point as well, although I don't think I've seen any products that are glasses.
Muse
You'd know.
actually partnered with Ray-Ban to put out a pair, but that was like 5 or 6 years ago, and they didn't take off. I don't know if must have been too early for the market to adopt it, as well as I just don't think that the quality of the brainwave information is that great when you just have information coming from the frames. It's doable, but I think that there's issues with the quality of the information of the data from the brain, and people have tried it before, but it just hasn't taken off.
So we've kind of discussed that these things can read your mind, but and we've also touched lightly upon the idea that they could change your mind. That there might be things on there that could introduce something to change your state. With that being said, Do we have free will when something can literally just interact with us and change what we're thinking?
Yeah, I think we have free will.
Why do you think that?
Um, I think there's things that can influence decision making. Like if you go back to the ultrasound stimulation, what I would compare it to is being intoxicated. Not
Go
that the
on.
ultrasound actually causes intoxication, but if you imagine if you induce euphoria in the brain, you're going to have certain decision making capabilities. But you can override that. Like if someone was intoxicated, you took two different people, had them do the same amount of intoxication, and put, I don't know, like gambling in front of them. One might gamble, one might not, but they'll each have their own choice. That free will might be diminished because of the effects of alcohol on their brain. But I think that they still have a good amount of free will. And that might be the case with ultrasound technology as well as other technologies that stimulate pleasure centers of the brain, is that it might reduce your capacity to make good decisions, but that ultimately that free will is still there.
Have you ever heard the term "God of the gaps"? Have you ever heard
Mm-mm.
that term? It basically means like back in the day, everything that we didn't understand, we just attributed to God, right? Weather, things of that nature.
Yep.
And then as we learned those things, those things narrowed until God was a smaller spectrum of the things we don't understand. And I wonder if these technologies are going to reduce the amount of stuff that we don't understand about the brain to the point where it's like, well, where does free will live as these things contract? You're like, okay, here's where depression lives. Here's where happiness is. Here's where all these different area choice and so forth. And I wonder if we get it to such a narrow point where it's like, I'm not sure where we're making choices anymore because we can just see chemicals firing off. We can see electrical frequencies, or you're going to know this stuff way better than me. I'm butchering it. But you get the point, right?
I think it could go the other way too, though. For
That's
instance, when I went to
crazy.
Santa Monica and they stimulated my brain with ultrasound, the actual point of the exercise was me to meditate while I was in the chair and doing the ultrasound. And I had a fantastic meditation session. I meditate every morning. It's something that I've done for over 10 years. And the more that I meditate, the more that I experience these altered states, the more I think I'm open to the fact that we only see a tiny sliver of what's actually here in the present universe. And I think that neurotechnologies actually can open up our perception to a wider world and God.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a big sentence. Um, I just listened to a podcast today, Huberman Labs, and he was talking about how if you do hard things, it grows the part of your brain that it makes you okay with doing hard things, and that's an interesting idea across the board with lots of stuff, right? Like, uh, would any of these technologies help identify areas of the brain, and then could those things be stimulated externally? So, for example, if somebody's like, when I get stressed, I want to eat, right? And so now we utilize a technology like this where it can be like, okay, there's the center that's telling them to eat. Could we then fire something off to inhibit that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. I think that there's some common brain centers like the amygdala that are the fear circuitry of the brain that actually engage when we uh, do things like overeat, that type of thing. So there might actually be some common centers of the brain that have a wide array of effects rather than it just being really specific parts of the brain that might be good for, I want to stop smoking cigarettes or I want to, stop binge eating. Might be some common areas that we can stimulate and see what effects it has on people's behavior. And it's all work that's being done right now. I think it's going to take decades, but it'll continue to evolve during our lifetimes.
I really, really appreciate you pulling back the curtain of one technology that kind of seems like magic, but also the channel and what you're doing. A lot of people are very protective of their secret sauce. The ones that are really confident are not. They're like, no, this is what I'm doing and I do it well. And I really respect those people that are just like, this is it. This is how the sausage is made. And so I respect you for that. Where can people find you on YouTube? Maybe outside of YouTube. And also, we're going to include affiliate links for this stuff because it's awesome. And if you watch this and want it, we'll include your affiliate links in the descriptions.
Yeah, my primary content is on Cody Rall, MD. Is also Tech for Psych with Tech for Psych. It's Tech for Psych. And
The
if
number
you,
4?
no, just
Spelled out
FOR.
for. Okay.
Yeah. And if you search my name on YouTube, I'll come up. There's not a whole lot of Cody Ralls out there, so it's really easy to find. I also do have a website that has some downloadable PDFs, some guides to use along with meditation using the Muse headband. There was a project that I'm working on with a developer where we've created um, protocol for loading up your brainwave information into ChatGPT that can read your thoughts. You can do thought commands to ChatGPT and have it draw different pictures. We didn't get a whole lot into that here, but lots of different
Whoa.
projects on the website as well. And I think a good place to start. I just put out a video right before Black Friday. It's kind of my annual review video of all the different brain devices for the year. So if you search best brain devices of 2025, that'll be a good primer. It'll take you through all my favorite brain devices, and all the affiliate links are on there.
I'm super tempted on those headphones. You got to like feel them to realize how nice those are. Anyways, thank you so much for being on.
Appreciate it, Tyus.